Hello, I'm Brian Price, and I've been interested in cinemas for many years now, and lately I've noticed a change. I'm here to uncover what those changes are and what influenced them. Is this the end of cinema? Although the cinema industry isn't as talked about as it once was, it is still prevalent today. It was and still is a very competitive industry, with many big organisations battling for the top. But it isn't just international organisations that exist in the world of cinema. Local businesses are just as competitive. Even though they're smaller companies, their struggles are just as large as any other. On the Isle of Wight, there's been over 20 cinemas that have come and gone in just 100 years. Most of these cinemas were local establishments, such as the Rec Cinema and the Playhouse Cinema. In 2019, cinema had already been on a steady decrease in admissions since the late 1950s, and only in the early 90s did the number of cinema goers steady out. Before COVID, ticket sales grossed over 170 million across the UK, but during lockdown it went down to just 44 million. That is a massive 75% decrease in sales in only 2 years. Streaming services rose significantly during the pandemic, which gave the audience easy access to films and series that otherwise would be difficult to watch. Instead of relying on cinema times, streaming services are always accessible to the audience. This type of convenience was bound to leave a mark on the cinema industry once the coronavirus died down. In 2019, Netflix had over 150 million subscribers, which sounds like a massive number, but there's still room for growth. By the end of 2020, Netflix had over 192 million subscribers. That is a difference of 42 million in 1 year alone. Over the years, Commodore has seen cinemas appear and disappear all over the island. Although it is a local business, Commodore Cinema is still thriving today. But I am wondering, what have they done differently to other cinemas to keep in business for over 80 years? And how long will the legacy of Commodore Cinema last? We have arranged an interview with the manager of Commodore to uncover the truth behind how his cinema has dealt with the conflict with streaming services and the pandemic. What's your name and what is your role here?
My name's Adam Watson, I'm the manager at the Commodore Cinema.
According to our research, cinema admissions has dropped 75%. Has similar effects happened to your cinema?
Initially, we're certainly probably behind by about that much when we first reopened after the first lockdown. Gradually improved. We're still behind where we would normally be in terms of admissions and sales and so on, but we're probably more like 20 or 30%, I would say, currently.
What changes have you made out of reaction to the pandemic?
Well, there was all the sort of initial stuff like having to put perspex screening around. We had to manage how we dealt with customers coming in, queuing, that sort of thing. We had to change our timings around so that our showings were much more staggered, so people weren't coming in and out at the same time, that sort of thing. It's gradually eased up as restrictions have changed, so we don't have the perspex anymore, for instance. But it's here should we need it. The screening times and that sort of thing, we've kept them because our sort of staggered timings seem to work quite well.
Do you think streaming services has affected admissions in cinema?
Sometimes, certainly. Things like we had last year, Encanto was quite a big release for us, the Disney film, and it came out on Disney Plus more or less the same time, so certainly harmed our admissions with that one. So that sort of thing where things are released almost immediately on streaming services, it certainly doesn't help us, because there used to be a bit of a gap. You'd have a few weeks at least before things would be on stream.
What do you think of the current state of cinema?
Improving. I mean, I think the pandemic certainly hit the movie industry as it did with everything else. So it meant that when cinemas were able to reopen, there weren't the films to show. It took a long time for films to start sort of coming back through. Certainly, sort of big releases and things were very slow to sort of get going. Seems to be improving. There's been a few sort of big releases, and they're coming sort of closer together now, because there was sort of very few and far between initially. So it's improving, certainly improving.
You see for the future of the cinema industry?
We want to be around as long as we can. I mean, our aim here is to provide good value cinema for our customers. We have a ticket price that we keep as low as we possibly can. We want to be inclusive for everybody. I think it's a great thing for Ryde to have a cinema in the town, so we want to be available to as wide an audience as possible. So we hope to continue to be able to do that.
Thank you for the interview.
Thank you.
It seems Commodore Cinema is confident in their comeback to where they were in 2019, which I admire. From the changing timings to keeping a COVID-friendly atmosphere, it seems they're trying to reach out to as much of an audience as possible. What side is the public on? Streaming services or cinema? What is your opinion on cinema?
Okay, so I think there's probably two parts to cinema. You've got the bit which is us lot that enjoy it, that go and watch a film or sit on our sofa and watch a film. But then you've also got the people who are making cinema as well. And I think for everybody who's been born in the last 100 years, it's a huge part of our life, and it's still a massive part of entertainment for us.
Personally, I think that the cinema is actually okay, depending on which one you go to. Because in Newport, they've got the Newport cinema, and then you've got the Ryde one, which is a lot cheaper, so yeah.
What do you prefer, cinema or streaming services?
Streaming services.
Why?
Because I can do things while also watching something.
Probably streaming services, because then you can just watch it at home and you don't have to pay or go anywhere.
Really tricky one, isn't it? Because I mean, I think cinema's kind of gone into decline and then come back up again in cycles over the years.
The contrast of opinions from the cinemas and the public are truly amazing to compare. Both views had valid arguments for the fate of the cinema industry. The contrast of opinions from the cinema and the public are truly amazing to compare. Both views had valid arguments for the fate of the cinema industry. Although Adam, the manager of Commodore Cinema, is aware of the industry eventually hitting a dead end, he is confident that his cinema will last for a while longer.
Technological advancements are inevitable, and streaming services will soon dominate. But once it is the end of cinema, it will also be an end of an era.